Hello, my name is Kelly Megan of KM Consultancy Services and KnowledgeMarket.ie. I'm a Microsoft Office training instructor and I've teamed up with TrainedIn to bring you a series of 3 webinars called A Taste of Word, and this is the third and last of those 3. Now this is aimed at those who are new to Word or who don't have a great knowledge of Word but would like to know more. I'm using Office 365 and it's the desktop version, but what I'm doing applies to Word 2010 onwards. So what I'm going to be looking at to start with is I'm going to look at page breaks, and I'm going to look at putting in headers and footers, and I'm going to look at having different pages, portrait pages, landscape pages on my document, and also different headers and footers on my document. So to start with, we're going to take a closer look at the document that we've got. So I'm going to just take the document out, zoom it out. That's it. So pushed it out so you get a bit of a clearer idea of what the document looks like. So you can see that we have a lot of text on the document. Now down at the bottom of the first page, you'll see there's a little side heading here, and that side heading is disconnected from its heading, from its main text up on the top page. So that definitely needs to be corrected. And in fact, I think that on the first page, I would like to keep the text down as far as reading. And then actually from online onwards, I think I'd like that text to be on the second page. And I think my first page and my second page, I would like them both to be portrait. Now you can see that I've got a chart here, and this chart is falling off the side of the page. So rather than make the chart smaller, I want to keep that size. So I'm going to need a landscape page to contain that chart. So straight away, that's telling me that I cannot have the same page break between page 2 and page 3 as I do between page 1 and 2. So I'm going to be looking at putting in a section break between page 2 and page 3. And then page 4, I'm going to put all the rest of this text onto page 4. And I want this page 4 to also be portrait. So that tells me that the page break between page 3 and 4 has also got to be a section break. So page 1 and page 2 are going to be full of text, and they're going to be portrait. They're going to have exactly the same headers and footers between them. So it is absolutely perfect for me to have a normal page break between page 1 and 2. But between 2 and 3 and 3 and 4, I have to have section breaks. I have to surround, in other words, the item on this page with section breaks so that I can make this page different. I'm going to make it a landscape page, and I'm also going to put different headers and footers on it. Now the fourth page is going to be like page 1 and 2. It's going to be portrait, and it's going to have the exact same headers and footers as page 1 and 2. So it's going to be different from page 3, and I've got to be cognizant of that when I am dealing with it. So how do we go about that? How do we get it done? So let's bring this page up. So I'm going to click into this page so that when I bring the zoom back up, it'll be onto that first page that we move on to. So I'll zoom back and it'll bring us onto this first page. So the first thing I said I wanted to do is I wanted to keep the text down as far as here on page 1, but I want from here onwards to be on page 2. Now I'm going to put in a normal page break, but the way that I do my page break, or the way that I position my cursor, is important. I don't position my cursor here at the end of this paragraph, because if I put in a page break at this point, then I'm going to bring the gap with me, because the flashing line that you have there, everything to the right of that is what's going to be placed at the top of the next page. I want this text to be at the top of page 2, so I click to the left of that text. So whatever it is you want at the top of the next page, that is what you must click beside. So everything to the right of that flashing line will go on to page 2. So I'm going to go to my Insert tab, and I'm just doing a normal page break. So that is this choice here. I click onto it, and that has now pushed that text onto the next page, and you can see that text is sitting at the top of the page. You can see it's right at the top of the page there. So that's great. I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to deal with this area. So I want to be able to bring this heading and the chart onto the third page, but I know I'm going to make this page landscape, and I also know that this page is going to have different headers and footers, and that means I can't use a normal page break. I have to use a section break. So I'm placing my cursor right in front of the text that I want to be at the top of the next sheet, and this time I go to the Layout tab. I'm going to click onto the Layout tab, and in the Page Setup group, I'm going to the Breaks button. Now your bog standard page break, the one that's on the Insert tab, that's that one there. So it's the very, very first one. That's not the one that I want. I want a section break. And in the section breaks area, it's the next page. And probably 95% of the time, this is the section break that you're going to be using. It's the next page section break. So I click onto that. It places my items onto a new page, but it does so with a section break. Now, nothing is obvious at this point, but I'm just setting the document up so that I will be able to change this page to a landscape page, etc. I'm going to scroll down, and again, I want this text onwards to be on the next page. Now, this page onwards, yes, it's going to be a different style of page from this one. So again, to achieve that, so that I can do what I want with this page away from this page, I'm going to place my cursor in front of this text, and this has also got to be a section break. So again, it's Layout tab, Breaks, and it's a next page section break. I'm just going to scroll up, or scroll down, I beg your pardon, and that's all the text on that page. So now again, if I zoom out so that we can take a look at how this document is at the moment, just come out another little bit. So I've got my 4 pages, just as I wanted, and I'll just bring that up a tad bit closer there. Perfect. So I've got my 4 pages exactly as I wanted, and all that remains now, or all that I need to do at this point, is to change this page to being a landscape page. Now, because I've made the break either side of that as a section break, I can work on this page without affecting the other pages. So I'll just click either beside that text or into that text there at the top of the page. And again, on the Layout tab in the Page Setup group, I'm going to go into Orientation, and I'm going to click on Landscape, knowing, just give it a moment, that it's only going to affect that individual page because this page is in its own section. So what I have now are 3 sections in my document. The first 2 pages are in section 1. This is section 2, and this is section 3. And it's the page breaks that determine the sections, or properly called the section breaks that determine the sections. I used a normal page break between these 2. So both of them are contained within the one section. Okay, that's great. That's the first part of my document done. I'm going to click into this first page, and again I'm going to zoom up, and now I'm going to start looking at dealing with my headers and footers. Now I'll just go back to the Home tab there at the top of the screen. So the next thing is I'm going to put in the headers and footers that I want on the majority of my pages. So I'm bringing my cursor up into the header area, and I'm going to double click. And that's going to place me into header and footer mode. And you can see that I'm on the header and footer contextual tab up here at the top. Now I'm going to just type in some text here. So I'll just put in features of the product. Make up some rubbish. Again, I'm really not very good at this, making things up on the fly, I'm afraid. So I'm not really worried about the words. It's so that you can see what it is that I'm doing. Now, what I want you to notice is that when we're in this header, that it says here, header section 1. So it's letting you know you've got sections within your document. Now, if I want to go to the next section, and I'm going to show you this, I'll pop up here to navigation and I choose next, and that means jump to our next header or footer. So I'll just click onto that, and when you have sections, rather than jumping you to the next header, so I've not gone to page 2, I've actually gone to page 3, it jumps you to the next section. I want you to notice what it says here on this section. It says header section 2, but over on the right, notice that it says same as previous. And this is the part that's really, really important. When you create page breaks, it doesn't matter if they are normal page breaks or section page breaks. The default is that each page will follow the previous. When it's sections, each section will follow the previous. So when I put in my header, it's going to put the same header onto all sections. So again, if I go to the next section, which is this one, you're going to see that this 4th page, which is header section 3, this is the same as the previous section, section 2, and section 2 is the same as the previous section, section 1. And again, that's really, really important to understand when it comes to sections. Now I'm going to go back, so I'm going to go previous, previous. So remember, when you have section breaks, clicking the next and previous buttons move you between sections. But if you just have the same breaks, the normal bog standard page breaks, it would just move you from one header and footer to the next, i.e. one page to the next. Okay, I now want to put in a footer, and I'm going to put in the footer that I want to have on 3 of the pages. So I'm going to pop down to the footer to do this. Now I don't actually need to go to the footer, but just to show you how I go down to the footer when I'm in header and footer mode. What I do again is I come to navigation and I choose the go to footer button. Now this button will drop me down to the footer of section 1. It will not bring me to the next one unless I choose the next button, and that will then bring me to the next section. So I can move between the header and the footer of the same page by clicking on these buttons here. Now I could carry out my next action from the header, but for some reason I still drop myself down to the footer to do this, because what I'm going to do next is put in page numbers. I'm down in the footer. I'm moving over here to the page number button, but the page number button allows me to distinguish where I'm going to put them, whether it's at the top of the page, i.e. the header, or the bottom of the page, i.e. the footer. So I could have been up in the header and put in the page numbers into the bottom of the page without coming down into the footer. It's just pure habit that makes me come down. So I'm going to choose bottom of page. I've got a choice of plain numbers. That's the initial choice you see here. I can either have a left aligned plain number, a center aligned as in center of the footer, or a right aligned number. I actually want mine in the style of page 1 of 4. So I've got 4 pages, page 1 of 4, page 2 of 4. So I'm going to scroll down, and that's called page X of Y. And again, I can choose a left aligned, I can choose a center aligned, or I can choose a right aligned. And I'm going to go with right aligned. Now you'll notice it says bold number 3. Now what that means is that when it puts the footer in, the numbers will be bold. Okay, so exactly what it says there. I actually don't like that, and it's really pedantic, but I always highlight my footer, and I'll use the mini toolbar. I'll just click the bold on everything and then click it off. So I had to click it on to click it off. I don't know why. I just don't like it. So to me, it's either all bold or not bold at all. So that's taken the bold off. Now, just to for everybody to just make sure everybody understands, that when you see these numbers down here, when I've got them highlighted, you'll notice the numbers are highlighted in an even darker grey. There's no bold turned on at the moment. The reason they're highlighted in a darker grey is to let you know that they are not normal numbers. So you would never ever type in a page number. These are special numbers called fields, and the dark grey colouring is just to let you know that they are a special field. And what that means is that if I add in a new page, this number here at the end will increment. So it'll suddenly become page 2 of 5. If I remove a page, it'll decrement. It'll become page 2 of 3. Equally, if I put a page in front of this page, this would update and become page 3. So these are updating numbers known as fields, and this is just trying to let you know that they are fields by having that darker grey highlight. Okay, so again, I'm happy with what I've done. I'm going to close out of the header and footer. Now you can either close using the button here, or you could just double click straight on the page. So I can double click and I go back into normal mode. I'm just going to push this out again. So I'll push the zoom out so that you can see not only do I have the same header and footer on every page, same header, I also have the same footer on every single page. Why do I have the same header and footer on every single page? Well, if I click back here and bring that back up again, and if I just pop up to that header and double click to get back into the header, go down to the footer, again, it's exactly the same as the header. This is footer section 1. If I go to the next section, this is footer section 2, and the default is it is same as previous. So it's following section 1. If I go to next, this section, footer section 3, is following section 2, and section 2 is following section 1. So the default for headers and footers, even if you use section breaks, is that they are same as previous. They like to follow each other. When we put in section breaks, what we're doing is we're setting up the document so that we can change that. So I'm going to go back to previous, and I'm going to pop up to the header of this page, and I'm going to now change the heading for this page only. Now I'm going to just show it to you initially going wrong, so just so that you can see why it's going wrong. So first off, I can see that this is the same as previous. I need to break that link to the previous page so that I can put in my own heading here. So while I'm in this heading, I click off the link to previous. I've broken the link, and that means I can change this and it will not change what's written on the previous one. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this part off, and I'm going to leave it with the word product. Now, if I go up to the previous section, you're going to see it's worked perfectly. But I did say I was going to show you this going wrong. The problem isn't on the first one. The problem now is on the third section. So if I go to next, remember that this has same as previous attached to it. So this section is following section 2, which is no longer linked to section 1. So it wasn't enough for me to break the link from the previous one. I needed to break the link here as well. So I'm just going to go back to this. How do I fix it up? Well, I just use my undo button as normal. I put that in, and I've broken the link here already to the previous section, but I need to go to the next heading, and I need to break the link here so that this doesn't change when I go and change the previous header. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to go back to the previous header. I'm going to delete this off. And as well as that, just to make this easier to see, I will make it bold, and I think I'll make it blue, and I'll make it center aligned. So it's going to be really, really obvious that that's different. I'm going to double click on the page to come out, and I'll just zoom out so that you can get a look at our pages. And now you should be able to see, even, you don't need to be able to read this, you just need to be able to see it, that page 1, page 2 and page 4 have the same header, whereas page 3 has a completely different header. Okay, so now I'm going to deal with the footer, and I'm going to put a different footer onto this page. So again, I've got to break the link this way, but I also have to disconnect this one from this so this doesn't update when I change this one. So I'm clicked onto here. I'm going to zoom back up and I'm going to double click into my heading and go down to my footer. I break the link. So same as previous, I come up here and I break the link so that that disappears. But I must remember to go to the next section because I do not want to lose my page 4 of 4 style on this page. So I break the link here as well. And again, same as previous is gone. I now go back to the previous section and I can do what I want now with this, and it's going to have no effect either on section 1 or on section 3. So I'll highlight that, I'll delete it, and I'm just going to type in chart 1, and again I'll highlight it, I'll go to the home tab, I'll make it bold, I'll make it blue, and I'll make it centered. I'm going to double click to come out of header and footer mode, and I'll just minimize or zoom that right down again. And again, you don't need to be able to read the header and footer to see that the header and footer on this page is completely different to the headers and footers on these pages. Okay, so when we want to have pages, some pages that are landscape, some pages that are portrait, we need to surround the page that we want, page or pages that we want to be different, with section breaks. If we wanted to leave this page as portrait, but we wanted a different header and footer, we would still have to surround the page with section breaks. So when you create sections, it allows you to treat a section completely separately to all the other sections. Okay, so that's our page breaks, our section breaks, our headers and footers, and our portrait and our landscape. I'm going to click here onto page 1, and I'm going to bring this back up, zoom back up to 100%. Just come down a tad there, and we're now at 100%. So the next thing that I want to show you is I want to show you styles. Styles are an incredibly important part of working with Word. Excuse me. And very, very overlooked and very underestimated. Now, when I talk about styles, I'm talking about what you're seeing up here in the styles group. And I'm talking very specifically about heading 1, heading 2, and heading 3. These styles are connected to multiple features within Word. And if you don't use these styles, you lose the benefit of so many features. So what I'm interested in when I'm finished working with my styles is I'm interested in creating a table of contents. And tables of contents are connected directly to the styles called heading 1, heading 2, and heading 3. So if I want to create a table of contents, that's what I need to be using. So first, I need to convince you as to why you would use these. So a heading 1 style would, I would use that for the kind of the main heading on my document. But again, I'm only going to put it onto text that I want to have appearing in the table of contents. So I've got this as my main title of the document. And again, you can see my complete lack of imagination with the title. I do not want that to appear in the table of contents, so I do not use any of those 3 styles. However, I do want the rest of these side headings to appear in the table of contents, so I do need to use the styles. And I just have to decide which is the main heading, which is the secondary heading, and which is a third level heading, etc. And again, you'd often see those styles of headings indented inwards. So now I'm going to apply those styles to my document. Now they won't look the way we want them to look, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to highlight video. I'm going to pretend this is going to be kind of my main side heading, and I'm going to make that a heading 1. I'm going to say professional is a heading 2, styles and themes, and I'm going to hold down control and save time, and reading, all 3 of those are going to be a heading 3 style. And I'll just deselect, and I'll just scroll down my page to the next one. And I'm going to say that online is a heading 1. This is going to be a heading 2. And I'll make these 2, again using control to highlight them, a heading 3. And then I'll come down to the next page, and I'm going to say this is a heading 1. That's all the text I have on that page. I'm going to come down here. We'll make this a heading 1. I'm going to make this one and this one a heading 2. And I'm going to make this one, and this one a heading 3. Do I have anything else? I don't. So I've placed all the side headings that I want to appear in my table of contents into a heading 1, heading 2, or heading 3 style. Okay, so number 1, we know that these are attached to tables of contents. That's why we need to use them. But other than that, why don't I just use things like my bold, my font size here, etc.? Well, the reason we don't use this kind of what we would call local formatting is because it doesn't auto-update. So we only use this for specific types of text. So that would be really useful for this heading that I do not want to have appearing in the table of contents, but yet I do want to make it look like a heading. So with this heading, heading 1, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, yeah, well, that's great. Thanks very much for giving me text that I can put in the table of contents, but I don't want blue text. I want black text. And I say, well, that's not a problem because everything can be customized. And the important thing is to attach the style, keep the style name, but you do not have to keep the style format. So just to show you, I'm going to highlight this one. And I think I would like this to be bold. I'm happy with it being a size 16, but I would like that text to be black. So I've made that black. I think I would like to make a bit of an adjustment on the height. I can see there's some space up above this, but I'd like some space below it as well. So there's a bit more space between this text and this area here. So I'm going to go into my paragraph notch, and there's 12 points of space before, so I think I'll put 12 points of space after as well. I'll click OK, and I'm looking at that and I'm going, yeah, that's exactly what I want. Now, this is the beauty of styles. I'm now going to push that onto all the other heading 1s in this document. I keep it selected. I pop up here, I right click, and I choose Update Heading 1 to match selection, and I'll deselect. Now, I'll just scroll down a little bit, and you can see that that heading 1 heading has updated. And there, and there. That is the beauty of styles. It's something that updates throughout the document. Now, I've only got 4 pages. Imagine if I had 100 pages and I had a heading 1 style all the way through, and I had been asked to make that change, and I had done that locally by just putting on bold, font size 16, black, and through there, I'd have to then go and do that for each individual one. This is the beauty of using styles. Now, another thing that our styles are attached to is the navigation pane. So you can see I'm scrolling through the document. That's not what I would do in real life. I would use my navigation pane because these features are attached to it. So I get the navigation pane by going to the View tab, and in the Show group, I've got my navigation pane here. And your navigation pane works with your heading styles. So you can see I'm on this section called headings. And if I go to here, this is my pages and this is my search area. I'm interested in my headings, which is the default one to come on, and you can see that in here they indent so you can tell the level of the heading just by looking at it. So that's a level 1, that's a level 2 or heading 2, this is a heading 3 style, etc. The beauty of this is I can move around the document. So if I want to come down to this heading 1 here, I just click on it, or come down to that last one, come back up to this one. To get to the top of the document, it's this here. That brings me right back to the top of the document above the heading. Okay, so really, really nice. Absolutely love this feature, but it doesn't look at normal text, as you can see. Okay, I'm going back to the Home tab because now I'm going to update my next style. So I'm going to highlight this one, and again, I think I'd like it to be bold and I'd like it to be black. I think I'd like it to be a size 14, and I'm going to pop into here and I'm going to make it 6 points before and 6 points of space after, and click OK. I want that to be pushed, that change to be pushed onto the other headings. So just to show you, it is not pushed onto the other headings as yet. I have to keep that selected. I come up here, I right click and update heading 2 to match selection. Now when I move to my heading 2, and I'll do it using this, headers and footers, and I can see another heading 2 there. That's a heading 1, sorry, heading 2 there. And I can see another heading 2 there, and they're all updated. Really, really lovely. And back up to the top. And I'm just going to do one more. I'm going to do my heading 3, and I think I'll make them bold, italics. I'll leave them at 12. I'll make them black, and I'll pop into here and I'm going to do 3 points of space before. I'm just typing it in, so I'll highlight in it and just type in. And again, you don't have to put in the PT. Microsoft looks after that for us. And I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to push it onto the others by right-clicking and updating heading 3 to match the style. And if I come down here, yeah, that's all done, all matched in, absolutely perfect. Okay, so that is the beauty of styles. Any document where you want any long document where you want a bit of control over the document and you want the ability to move around, etc., then this is the type of thing that you need to be looking at. I'm just going to close that navigation pane off now, but remember it was View tab and it's just checked on using the checkbox there. Absolutely lovely feature. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to create my table of contents. Now my table of contents, remember, defaults to using heading 1, heading 2 and heading 3. You can see there is a heading 4. There's actually 9 heading styles, but tables of contents default to just the first 3. I'm placing my cursor here. I need a blank page at the start of my document. So this is the text that I want to have at the start of page 2. I've got my cursor in front of it and I'm going Insert Page Break. Unless I'm going to do some class of different style numbering, it's just a normal page break. I scroll up, I click up at the top, and I'm just going to press Enter once or twice to push down the page break, and then I'm going to click back at the top. Now to put on the table of contents, really, really simple. I go to my References tab heading, and on the References tab heading over on the left-hand side, I have the Table of Contents area. You can see the button called Table of Contents. I just click onto that, and it's these two that we're going to be looking at. So I'm not going to look at this one down here. I'm looking at these two. And you can see they default to using heading 1, heading 2, and heading 3 styles. The difference between these two, this one's going to have a heading saying Contents. This one's going to have a heading saying Table of Contents. I'm going to start with this one. I'm just going to click onto it, and there is my table of contents placed into my document with little or no work from myself. Okay, so now I'm going to make a change to the document. and I'm going to add in another page. So I think I'll add in another page down here at the word graphics. So you'll notice your table of contents gives you the ability to follow the link. So I'm going to hold down Control just like it says, which will convert my cursor to this little hand. I click, that's going to bring me to that. So again, I could have used my navigation pane, but my table of contents is going to allow me to do the same thing. I'm clicked at the start of that text. That's going to be at the top of the next page. I'm going Insert, Page Break, just a bog standard page break. Great stuff. So now I have 6 pages. I go back up to the top of my document, and I want you to notice that this has not updated. Tables of contents do not update automatically. If you make changes in the document, you need to tell the table of contents to update. So I'm going to click into this. I'll just click up here by the heading. And when I do that, I'm going to get this area up here at the top. This is where I go to update. I click onto it. It's going to open this up. Now, this will work because all I did was add in a new page. So it's going to update the page numbers. However, generally I would make more changes than that. So for instance, if I had put in a new side heading, it wouldn't be any good just updating the page numbers because it wouldn't pick up the side heading. So I make it my business always to choose update entire table, just in case I've made any other changes that I might have forgotten about. So I always choose that one, click OK, and you'll see it has updated. And if I'd added in any new side headings, it would have picked up those as well. Okay, I've now decided that I want the other table of contents. I want to have the heading table of contents in there. So all I have to do is come to this second button here. Well, it's actually the first button of the two. I click onto that, and I could just swap over to this, but just to show you, you can remove a table of contents. Now, I could just go straight for that, but I'm going to remove it. So if you want to get rid of the table of contents, you can. But equally, I could have just swapped over. But again, it gives me the opportunity to show you where I got it. So remember, it's References, Table of Contents, and this time I'm going for this one. And it puts in a heading, Table of Contents, and that's the only difference between that table of contents and the previous one. Okay, I'm delighted with that. I'm going to just come down to my first area here, and just to mention that this is where, for this text, this is where, if this was the title of my document, I would make it maybe bold, centered. I might bring it up to, say, a size 16, something like that, but I will not use a style because it will get pulled into the table of contents, and I don't want it to be pulled into the table of contents. So we use local formatting, non-updating formatting, just for small items like that, but for the main items, we use styles. Now, the last thing I want to show you is how do I change this to a numbered style with a numbered table of contents, i.e. I want this to be numbered 1, 1.1, 1.1.1. So we looked at this yesterday when we did a multi-level list. So I'm going to look at doing that again. So all I do is click into one of my side headings. It doesn't matter which one, as long as it has a style on it. I'm going up to the multi-level list button. So remember, that's where this feature is. Both of these have the style that I want, but this is the one that you use for normal text. This is the one we used yesterday. This is the one that you use for heading styles. Heading 1, Heading 2, Heading 3. I click onto it and it's done. It's automatically attached it. Now, while it's done it, I discovered, when I was setting this up, I discovered a new bug in Word. This will not, should not happen to those on older versions, but this is a brand new bug to the Office 365. That heading should be 1, not 2. And I deliberately wanted you to see this because anyone on 365, this is going to happen to you until they fix this feature up. And what's happened is something has gone wrong in the programming of Word, and it's actually bringing in the heading table of contents in. So it's picking that up. Even though the heading style is not on it, something in the programming is picking that up. It has never done that before. So it's just a very, very recent bug. How do I fix that? I'm just going to highlight it. I'm going to set it to normal, the normal style. That turns the numbering off. I'm just going to make this bold, centered, just like I did with the other heading. I'm going to bring it up like that. Effectively, I'm almost disconnecting it from this. And if I now control click, this will have updated. So for this won't happen on older versions, but for those of you on 365, if you're doing this at this moment in time, this bug is there. So it's just nice for you to see how this works. So guys, that brings me to the end of my time and the end of this series. Thank you so much for sticking with me, and I hope that this has been of help to you.